in there, Harbor. And one weekend in the following weekend.
Good. Are we recording?
We used to go there and have that.
It's Tuesday, February 2024. The time is 7:00 PM. I call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Scalise,
Here.
Bailey,
Here.
Woods,
Here.
Memora. Here. Hendricks,
Here.
Christensen,
Here.
Manscavera.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda. We're going to be doing the agenda tonight as it's written, and I just want to advise the public, there is a public hearing on items 5 and 6. So if you're here to comment on items 5 and 6, you don't need to make your comments during item 4. You can wait till item 5 and 6 so they get into the proper hearing. Next item is approval of the consent minutes of regular meeting in February 6, 2024. Approval of bill list dated February 15, 2024, and payroll ledger dated February 9, 2024. Excuse absences for Mayor Pro Tem Brad Bailey for the February 6, 2024 regular council meeting. Consideration of ordinance number 124, series of 2024, first reading to set the public hearing of an ordinance amending chapter 16 of the Dillon Municipal Code regarding waste and recycling enclosures, and consideration of resolution number 1024, series of 2024, resolution adopting policies regarding remote attendance and hosting options for public meetings and quasi judicial hearings. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
For a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Memora,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Scalise,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Manscavera.
Yes. Thank you. Next item is citizen comments. Citizens are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes. Council will take comments into consideration, but will not make decisions at this time. Council will not engage in back and forth dialogue, but may respond to a speaker with brief factual information or refer the speaker to the town manager to arrange a meeting with an appropriate staff member for discussion of the speaker's topic at an appropriate time. However, the council has no obligation to engage with the speaker by either of the foregoing methods or at all. I do have a sign-in sheet here. The first one I have signed in for citizen comments is Jamie Livingston. If you would state your name and address for the record, and then I will start your 5-minute timer. And I'll try to-
Janine Livingston, 33 Corinthian Circle in Dillon.
Oh, Janine, sorry.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for allowing me time to speak. I'm a part-time resident in Corinthian Hill and on the board of directors, and I'd like to comment on the town's plans to include a roundabout and a crosswalk at our east entrance. First, I was extremely happy to see some plans in the newspaper a few days ago that included a roundabout and a crosswalk for Corinthian Hill. I believe we do have a significant safety issue with Highway 6, not only with the amount of traffic, but with the speeds of the vehicles, which are often above the speed limit. We're seeing more traffic going to Keystone and A Basin. And I think with A Basin being bought out by a large corporation, and with the large number of new residential buildings being built in Silverthorne, traffic will only continue to increase to these resorts. Second, I feel it is very difficult for pedestrians and bicyclists to cross Highway 6 at almost any time of the day to get to the bus stop and to access Lake Dillon Trail. I myself take my bike over regularly to get to the trail, and probably 9 times out of 10, I have to stop halfway across. And I do not feel safe doing that, but that's what I have to do just to make it across in 2 parts. It's also difficult for cars to turn left or right onto Highway 6 out of Corinthian Hill in the morning and the late afternoon, where there's just tons of traffic going both directions. Third, Corinthian Hill recently sent a survey to our community members asking for their thoughts about the safety of Highway 6. Out of 161 members, 116, which is 72%, which is like an all-time record for any of our surveys, responded to date, and a whopping 95% of those people agreed that Highway 6 is a safety issue and would like a solution implemented. I brought a copy of the survey results that I will leave with someone. it's not just a few community members who are concerned. It's a very significant number. Plus 17 people volunteered to get involved with this effort, which again, I think shows how important this is to our community because we rarely get very many volunteers for the issues that we bring out. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, I'm extremely happy to see a roundabout and a crosswalk in the town's plans. I was not happy, however, to see the timing of 10 to 20 years that was mentioned in the news article. This is a safety issue now, and it's only getting worse. I ask that to help lessen some of the issues, that the speed limit be reduced to 45 or even 40 to help as a first step. And then, a crosswalk with even a sign would help people know where to cross. People driving would see it. They'd see the reduced speed limit. So that could help too. And both of those things I don't think cost very much. I love the roundabout with a crosswalk, but we can't wait 10 to 20 years. So of course, I'd like to see that somehow moved up in the time frame. Again, we had 17 people volunteer to get involved. If you would like help from any of those or all of those, please let the Corinthian Hill Board know because it is an issue that we would like to see some improvement for. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks.
Who do I leave this for?
You can leave it right here with Nathan. Anyone else here tonight to make a general public comment? Not regarding item 5 or 6, just anything else? Okay, moving on then to item 5, consideration of ordinance number 1123, series of 2023, second reading and public hearing of an ordinance amending Division 2, Article 3, Chapter 16 of the Dillon Municipal Code regarding a new marina overlay zone district. It's 7:07 and the hearing is open.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you'll bear with me a second, I had, can you? Maybe. Thank you, Jesse. I want to thank everybody for coming to listen to what we're going to talk about tonight about the Marina Overlay District. It is ordinance 11-23, series of 2023. And I'll just note that the reason for that is that it was first introduced last year. I had to close out my presentation and I'm reopening it right now. My apologies. So the purpose of this ordinance is to actually clean up some issues that we've known about for some time and finally determined that it's necessary to go ahead and clean those up. And that is that the Dillon Marina is located on top of 2 different zone districts, one being parks and open space and the other being urban reserve. That wouldn't seem to be too much of an issue. However, the urban reserve zone district, as it's clearly defined in the code, has no permitted uses except for large estate residences. So given that, and the fact that half of the marina is located on that UR urban reserve zone, I'm not sure how to share. I'm working on it. That creates complexities for anything that happens at the marina. For instance, when they wanted to do a new sign, we go and we look into the code and say, oh, well, gosh, this isn't clearly defined. Part of the issue with that is that Denver Water owns all of that urban reserved zoned land. We've talked to Denver Water and they really aren't interested in going through a rezoning, but they have reviewed our packet materials and have said, yes, great, please go ahead with this overlay zone district. It'll clean up things. We understand that. We think that that will benefit. That's what we're up to. Bear with me here. It's just, you can see my screen. I see that. Um, Adrian, do you have my presentation on your, I emailed it to you.
It's on there. Do you not want? No.
It's just not advancing. I'm
It must be dense with information.
It's just not. My apologies.
We're all working through this together, Ned.
You
We
didn't,
feel for it.
do you want to
Feel-
send me the presentation
I did email it to you.
just now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's covering those two zone districts, parks and open space, and the urban reserve zone district. The urban reserve zone district is essentially set up for the vacant lands we have in town. It also encompasses parts of the reservoir itself. The concept there was that if a new development came, say, in the open area below Corinthian Hill, not very likely, but were that to happen, it currently being zoned urban reserve, at the time of an application for a project, they would go through a rezoning and say, zone it for residential medium, which is the Corinthian Hill subdivision zoning. That land also is owned by Denver Water, and Denver Water has no interest of doing any rezonings or any development on their properties. So we're just kind of living with what they've got for us.
Okay.
So I'm on screen 2. Thank you. I'll point out that page numbers are in the upper left. So if you have something you want me to come back to, I'd be happy to. Next slide. So what we're trying to do is just clean up this overlay of two districts by creating one district. The underlying zone districts will still exist. We're just overlaying them on top with some specific standards that say, well, in the urban reserve portion, the marina can have docks, can moor boats, can have sailing lessons, can do the activities that are currently taking place at the marina. So that's the intent of this overlay, is just to recognize that can't really do a rezoning because of Denver Water's involvement. Therefore, if we overlay it, we can recognize those uses that are currently happening and identify them in this overlay. That is.
Not yet. Not yet. So actually, the way we're gonna run this is Ned's gonna give his presentation. And then I don't think anyone else presents. Is that right? It's just Ned. And then we'll open it up. When he's done with his, I will open it up. When we're done asking questions, I'll open it up to the public to ask questions during the public hearing.
So slide 4, please. There's a public hearing process involved with creating this overlay zone. It is a code amendment essentially, and we're establishing this new zone district overlay. So we sent out, first the planning commission studied it. They did decide to recommend approval to the town council. So we then had a work session on this, and we had a first reading on December 19th. And tonight is the public hearing on this. Next slide, please. Just goes to the map. So as part of this, we did, and that's probably why we have so many good folks here tonight. We had our largest mailing that I can recall. Over 750 individuals were sent our information about this meeting. And I've corresponded with a number of people by phone and by email. providing additional information, answering questions, and trying to bring them up to speed as to what we're up to. We did prepare a memorandum. I believe all of you saw that this evening. That just kind of gives a high overview of what we're up to. It's really just this cleanup effort that we're doing. Here is the map of the proposed overlay zone district area. It is that area that is blue surrounded by the red bold line. It encompasses not just the marina itself, but much of the cove that kind of holds our marina. The purpose for that is that we have courtesy docks, we have moorings, we have sailing operations, sailing school operations, stand-up paddle operations, various other things that are kind of concentrated in this area. Not to say that they don't go beyond this boundary, but it was recognized that there could be moorings, there could be docks moored, there could be various things all in this area here. So that's why that is included. This boundary is also within the town of Dillon boundary. Slide 6 details the permitted uses. These actually align very closely with what is currently stated, almost verbatim actually, with the Parks and Open Space Zone District. And but we did kind of expand them a little bit to make it clear the uses that are currently taking place as being permitted. A marina, a yacht club, restaurant, snack bar, food vendors and bars, a meeting room or event space associated with a restaurant, parking and parking structures, maintenance and service facilities, rental and retail facilities, events, entertainment and recreational uses, accessory uses and structures to include but not limited to schools and activities associated with watercraft, knots, weather, nature, wildlife, ice or snow sports, wind sports, kite sports, or other similarly associated activities, storage, boat washing, and A&S treatment services, restrooms and shower facilities, sanitary sewer lift stations, waste and recycling receptacles and enclosures, waste and recycling storage facilities, docks, moorings, lifts and cranes, launch ramps, racks, mast steps, fueling facilities, and fuel sales and outdoor recreation. And I have one correction in there. The waste storage was stricken after the Planning Commission. So waste receptacles, but not so much like the storage use. Conditional uses, these are actually verbatim from the existing Parks and Open Space Zone District. That zoning language was actually brought into the Dillon Municipal Code by the Dillon Land Use Code in 1996 and has remained unchanged. So childcare facility, if integrated into a planned marina development, hotel, motel, if integrated into a planned marina development, 2 family dwelling for employees of the marina only. And the note at the bottom is again, just referring to that land development code of 1996 that brought in that language. In the table on page 8, you can see the existing parks and open space, that's POS, and the existing urban reserve zone districts in the table, and the new marina overlay zone, the MOZ. You can see that the uses are quite similarly aligned with the parks and open space. However, we did not think that a cemetery would be an appropriate use at the marina. Same with churches, as they are not allowed in any of the other zones over which this overlays. Clinics not. Single family is not recognized, and so therefore not. The 2-family is a conditional use, as was previously identified in the Parks and Open Space Zone, purely associated with a marina development or marina employees, in fact. Multifamily, no. Drive-in facilities, no. Entertainment is an allowed use. That is a slight change from how the code read in the Parks and Open Space Zone. However, we recognize that that's a use that already takes place in the Marina Overlay Zone District, right? We have live music sometimes. We have activities out on the lake that are viewed as entertainment. So that has been made an allowed use The hotel motel remains a conditional use, only associated with a planned marina development. Um, Let's see, marina obviously allowed, medical marijuana, no thanks. Offices allowed, pawn shop, no. Personal services, no. Public use. We found this curious that it was a conditional use in the parks and open space, that a public use would be a conditional use in that zone district, because we view the parks and open space open to the public for their use and benefits. So we assigned it as a allowed use. Restaurants allowed, retail marijuana, no. Retail stores allowed, again, because there's an existing retail store at the marina shop selling goods and products to clients and customers. We made that an allowed use because it's an existing activity there. And then the wholesale trade classifications not permitted. So very much aligned with existing language in the parks and open space, just further aligning with the current uses at the marina. Moving on to slide 9, some of the long-range planning that's taking place that we've been talking about at the marina includes working on the creating that new parks and waterfront sign zone, where we'll try to get some unified wayfinding signage and location identification signage for our parks, our marina, our trail system, to kind of let people know, hey, you're in Dillon, this is what it looks like and feels like to be here. Marina master plan implementation. We do have a master plan for the marina. We've implemented some of the aspects of it. We've changed some of the aspects of it. Master plans are just guiding documents, so we kind of give and take off of those. Let's see, there's a plan for a new abutment and a final location of ADOC. That is proposed to be relocated on the windward side of the boat ramp. That will provide much safer boat launches off the ramp because ADOC is also a wave attenuating structure. There's also plans for the boat ramp improvements. I think it's in pretty rough shape right now. There's a part of the seawall that has not been rebuilt. It's still these gabion rock baskets that are decaying over time. So that area where the tiki bar is not very stable. So that section of seawall is planned to be reconstructed. There is a desire for a restaurant and bar that perhaps exceeds the current conditions of the tiki bar. So that's certainly in our long-range planning. And then there's a concept that we have for a small craft recreation site, and I'll dive into that in a second. This is a clip of the Marina Master Plan. It's a pretty grand plan, but you can see some of what's what I just talked about, that ADOC on the west side of the boat ramp there, to help protect the entire marina and the boat launch. So that is planned and I think hoped for maybe this summer, end of the summer. For the summer? Yeah. Okay. To be in the future. It shows, this master plan shows a new amphitheater that has been accomplished as part of the Marina Park area. Many of the other improvements, kind of expanding on the west side of the platform that houses the marina operations and expanding of restaurant use and things like that. And I think there was a concept of even a restaurant out on a pier, but that's probably not very likely given our water fluctuations and ice and things like that. But a grand plan. And so we've done some of the improvements off of it. I think one of the bigger items that I think we would love to have happen sooner than later, and that would be to relocate the workshop where it's currently located, right at the kind of the entry to the marina and where the public interfaces, and try to push that farther down so there isn't so much entanglement with those uses of people visiting and the actual physical operations and boat repairs and things like that. On to page or slide 11, and this is purely hypothetical. It's a concept. It's kind of part of our long-range planning. And it's truly in its infancy, but it's a concept we have for another recreation site on Dillon Reservoir. So this would be across from Corinthian Hill subdivision. The access road would go down the hill and there'd be parking there. Concept is we could have small craft launches from that site, canoes and kayaks and that sort of thing. It would also be a great place for all of those people that park in Marina Park and get on the rec path and ride their bikes. This could be another satellite parking lot to provide quick and easy access to the recreation path. So just a concept, something we have in mind. Maybe it could detangle some of the smaller craft entanglements with the larger craft. And so we identified this location. And I think that concludes my report. I can say that staff does recommend approval of ordinance 11-23 series of 2023, an ordinance amending Division 2, Article 3, Chapter 16 of the Dillon Municipal Code regarding a new Marina Overlay Zone District. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions right away for Ned?
I don't have any questions.
You mentioned the restaurant on a barge or on the pier. And I wanted to observe that perhaps this may pave a way for a restaurant on an actual floating boat in this area. Big A next to restaurants allowed here.
Is this guy's idea, right?
Is that right? Is that, I mean, it would still have to go through Denver Water, but maybe.
Yeah, and that's something I did not highlight in
Oh.
my presentation, but every approval in that area would go through Denver Water, every new anything. And we have to update our lease with Denver Water regularly. So
Any other questions for Ned? Great, I will open it up to the public. Do we have a sign-in sheet? Great, thank you. So I'm gonna go based on this first, and then if you did not sign in, then we'll go by a show of hands after that. So John Carbno? If you would step up to the podium and then state your name and address for the record, please, and then I'll start your 5-minute timer.
My name is John Charbonneau, just like the guy who married Sacagawea. My wife and I have been owners at Marina Place 224 for 32 years, I think. First of all, thanks to the person who did that presentation. That was very helpful to me to understand kind of the greater concept here. Is it okay if I ask questions? Because mainly I'm here for information.
Yeah, I think so. And we will, what we say for our, well, if we can give you a brief, factual, direct answer, we will, and otherwise we might have you follow up.
Right. Can we get a copy of that presentation? My email's on there. Is that possible?
Ned, can you do that? Yes?
yes,
Yep, okay,
Great,
yes.
thank you. Sorry. I didn't know
Yep,
you-
John Sharp 5@yahoo.com. Got it.
Yes, great, thank you. Madam Mayor, when you came to our meeting this summer, last summer, I think it was this summer, you mentioned there might be a additional parking, like a tiered parking level or a parking garage there. Is that in the works? Is that
Not in the works.
not in the works? Any proposed use or planned use for that?
No,
Okay,
it's only a concept of, we were just talking about it earlier, sometime in the far future and nothing beyond a thought in our heads.
okay. The other thing is I was surprised to see hotel possibility there. And I know in one of the documents it says a 30-foot high maximum. Again, is there any plan of doing a hotel or motel down near the water? Okay, thank you. I think that's all I got. Thank you very much. Again, I found that very helpful.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Up next, I had Eric Kaler and Irene Fernandez. Oh, just you, okay. If you would state your name and address for the record, and then I'll start your 5-minute timer.
My name is Eric Kaler and I'm at 176 East Levante. And so right above the marina in Lake Cliff. And I'm here about the notice that I got. Because it said it's for people within 300 feet of this rezoning, and actually our property is right on the line of the rezoning. And so that's what I'm here about. It's for the the Ned called it upper tier parking. We've always called it overflow parking since had an agreement in 2013 with the town that we would landscape part of that area and the town would create overflow parking there. And it's right, you can see the marina park.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah, go back to that.
Okay.
Can I show you exactly what I'm talking about?
We should get a pointer like the old days, with an eraser on the tape.
Laser.
With that show.
Here, it's over here. Sorry, wrong thing.
It shows an extended parking lot in a circle. That being rezoned. Parking areas on this map. Being rezoned. This, being overlooked. Instead of staying parking. Being rezoned for development. Like, we're wondering why, I mean. Parking lot was there. And we don't, it's right in our face. You can see we have 3 buildings right on that, actually 4 buildings. So we have about 80 condo units that directly face this area. And so you're directly going to impact 80 condo units that are right on that.
We got it. Yes.
Right. Yeah, we're concerned about you're allowing this to be rezoned, this area to be rezoned, and we don't think it should be rezoned. This should be stay as like it is, a parking area, not be allowed to be developed on right there. That's a big problem we have. You know, we entered a good faith agreement in 2013 with the town to have this as overflow parking there. And we'd like it to not be in this overlay district and be to remain what it was. So if that could be moved down, the limits on that overlay district, we would really appreciate it so that we could sleep at night and not worry that you're going to build something right there in our face. That's our big concern. And
Mayor, I could respond to that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, sure.
So one thing in the zoning code is clear on this is that zoning provisions don't override any public or any private covenants. So it would not abrogate the agreement that's in place with Lake Cliff, right?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so this is not going to have any impact on that agreement whatsoever. The zoning sets forth the allowed uses of the area, the Marina Overlay District, but that doesn't mean that the town can just all of a sudden nullify those agreements, and it has no intent to do so. So, you know, you're not going to see a development there. Plus, the town renegotiated that agreement with you, right? Because otherwise you'd have a breach of the agreement. So, while this is being included in the overall Marina Overlay Zone District, it won't have any specific impact on that overflow parking.
Well, it opens the door for somebody to come in and propose developing something there. That's what that's what this whole thing is about. It says that,
So remember when I said that it does not abrogate a private covenant, a private agreement? So
Right.
that's exactly what you have in place right now. So unless Lake Cliff agreed to amend that agreement, there can't be anything else that goes there because the town would breach that agreement.
well, the agreement doesn't say that you can't, you could, that doesn't stop you from doing whatever you want in that parking lot. But
It does.
Yeah.
We're not legally allowed to change that agreement unless you agree.
so you're saying that the agreement says that that'll stay parking up there. But it's revocable, so you could revoke it and,
No, I don't believe it's revocable.
Well,
yeah, it is.
I haven't read the agreement to be
Well,
honest.
in Ned's, right here, he says it's revocable. On the back of this piece, what Ned wrote,
Language.
says right here, it's revocable.
Yep.
Okay, well, this zone district does not abrogate that private covenant, and that private covenant may or may not be So you might be right about that, but that's what the agreement says. So, I mean, if you're concerned about it being revoked, then I do understand your concern.
Well, I'm worried about this being developed, because that's what you're saying here. The UR district would be rezoned prior to development. So it sounds like this is also, you can develop on all this overlay district for the whole overlay district, and so it can all be redeveloped. And this is included in the overlay district, which just says you're rezoning it so it can be developed.
Sir,
That's what it says right here.
Yeah, sir. So I've said what I have to say on the matter. So, the agreement says what it does. It's in place. The town will not violate that agreement. It cannot do so. Otherwise, it would be in breach of that agreement. If it decides to revoke the license and it's allowed to do so under the agreement, then that's certainly a possibility, but there's no current intention.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you say that the agreement would stay in place, but I still don't like that. We still don't like the idea that for this rezoning. And I'm here representing HOA. I'm vice president of HOA. We have 121 units up there. And so for the HOA, I would like to stay on record that we would like to not have that there.
If it didn't include that,
Pardon?
if it didn't include that one parking lot, though, you would be okay with it?
Yeah, I would be okay with it if you would take that parking lot out of there.
Deb, was there a reason
Thanks.
to include that overly? It'd be good to hear from you on it.
Well, Eric, are you done with your, do you want to finish your comment before we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, okay.
I can tell you why it was included in the overlay, and that's because the marina currently uses it as overflow parking and storage of trailers and day use boaters and things like that. It seemed reasonable. I can state again that that area is zoned parks and open space and right of way. The revocable portion of that agreement, as I understand it, was the right of way that we allowed Lake Cliff to landscape. The town typically, if we do an encroachment license agreement, it is revocable in case we need to, for the good of the community, occupy our right of way again. Again, we have no intent. As it is currently zoned as parks and open space, every use identified in the overlay zone can currently happen, right? I mean, it might be a conditional use and now it's allowed with just in a couple of cases, but otherwise we aren't changing and we aren't proposing development in much of it. We're trying to say we've identified an issue, and that is the fact that half of the marina is in the urban reserve zone district. And for us to legitimately have operations there and permit new development and a new restaurant or a seawall that needs a grading permit, we recognize that really we need to have the zoning that can encompass that to make it legitimate. I
Thanks.
hope I answered your question there.
I think
If
that's
we-
pretty clear.
if we
It's
pull it
part
out of the
marina
map,
operation.
We can certainly pull it out of the map. The use, I assume, is permitted for the marina to use it. It would still be parks and open space with those same uses available to it. Of course, through a application and review process. And then the other portion would just always remain right away as well.
Thanks, Ned. And then, those are the only people I had signed up for the public hearing, so. Sure.
Can you go to the the mic there, please? Thanks.
If we could go to that other map that showed the overlay district. Because from when I look at this map, parks and open space is green. And that area we're talking about, that parking area is colored urban renewal. It's not.
He said it was the underlying zoning, and then this would be an overlay on top of that, so that underlying one is still present. And the same uses are allowed in the overlying district.
But the underlying is a parking lot. It's not a parks and open space, like Ned was saying.
It's to allow the boat trailer parking.
What's that?
It's to allow the boat trailer parking.
Well, it's just what it's used for right now.
Exactly. It's to make it officially allowable because it's now part of the overlay.
Okay, thanks, Eric. And then are you next? Would you like to make your comment? Are you?
Yeah,
Okay. If you would, yeah, head up to the podium, state your
If
name.
I
and-
may just state the facts real quick.
Oh, sure.
It's hard when you overlay things in a
Yeah,
map to
sure.
show what's underneath.
Yeah.
So, this is the official adopted zoning map of the town of Dillon. That parks and open space wraps all the way around that area. And then there's the right of way that is white. So
It's right of way,
It's
right of way.
right of way.
Which is for the good of the people.
Okay.
You're welcome to take a picture of that later if you like.
All right, so if you would state your name and address for the record, and then I'll start your 5-minute timer. If you approach 5, I'll start doing.
All right, sure. Yeah, shouldn't be take too long. Philip Burright, 120 East Labonte, F201. Philip Burright, yes. At Lake Cliff as well. And it's just a follow-up is that it sounds to me like we're not changing any of the allowed uses of that particular area. And I would really like to recommend that you change that border just to exclude that. So it is an exception when it comes to any sort of development that anybody that's looking at this area, this overlay district, that is carved out. Yeah, so when they come to develop, they'll know that, hey, there's another issue there that needs to be resolved, and that is dealing with this revocable or whatever the agreement is with Lake Cliff. And I think it's simply just changing that border to exclude that parking area that is subject to this agreement. And that's just, I'd really like that to be a recommendation. I don't think that's too much to ask. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else here to make a public comment on this item tonight? Did you have one, sir? If you would state your name and address for the record, and then I'll start your 5-minute timer.
Udo Lang, UDO, last name Lang. 460 Tenderfoot Street, East Bay condos. And after doing a bunch of research on this matter, I actually applaud the town about all the improvements that you're planning on in the marina. But I think the marina overlay zone exceeds by far the intended use. And I don't understand why it needs to be so broad. In my opinion, there should be 2 zones. That is one that's much more defined to the actual improvement area for the marina that you are planning, which looks great. But taking it all the way out to all the residences to allow development up to the residents, I think is wrong. And that includes, like you said earlier, a floatable boat restaurant that could anchor there in front of the restaurants. Bottom line is, I think it needs to stay 2 zones and there needs to be a new zone that is defined for the marina specifically, and the rest of the stays parks and open space.
Thanks.
We appreciate that.
Thanks for your comment.
No comments, no consideration.
Not always, yeah. It's just we try to answer questions when we can, but we don't always try to engage in
Right.
back and forth.
Good, then let me ask a straight question. Why is it so broad? Why is it so wide? Why are we adding uses that shouldn't?
Yeah, I think I can probably answer that, and if I don't give a sufficient answer, I think Ned can touch on it. He touched on it in his presentation, and it basically goes from where we have courtesy docks on the far west through to the marina use areas, and then courtesy docks over on these residences. And then it extends down into this side, thinking about that concept for a handcraft launch, parking, rec path use, kind of additional parking area down on this, lower right-hand side.
Which is all allowed under parks and open space. There's no need to extend that into the marina overlay zone. And the entire UR urban development area that currently doesn't have any of the, like it was said earlier, development uses.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think-
understand that you need to have moorings and all that, that's fine. But then define it as such, not as broad as it is now.
Thanks. Anybody else here to make a comment on this one tonight? Nobody else? Okay. So
She's got some.
Oh, yeah, we've got a couple of,
Mm.
you want me to read them or you want to read it? I do a lot of talking on
I
these.
know.
I'll start a timer though.
Okay. Okay. This is from Ruth and Jim Sherry. We own a condo in Acreage East Complex, on Tenderfoot Street. The proposed Marina Overlay Zone District encompasses an area that's far larger than the area around the marina. Under this proposal, the use of the areas affected by this MOZ would be greatly expanded. Typically, an overlay adds more regulations to protect public resources by imposing additional restrictions on development. Section 16-1300 addresses the rules and standards that govern proposed amendments to zoning regulations. To legally effectuate a change within the bounds of municipal code, the applicant must meet separate inclusive factors laid out in the section. These factors include mandatory rules regarding procedure, test changes, map changes, burden of proof, criteria outlining requirements of text and map amendments, compliance standards, and the plans interactions with the plans interaction with the comprehensive plan. Reviewing the overview of the proposition as well as the ordinance itself, we couldn't find where it stated that the Dillon Town Code, section 16-1300 E4, could be applied in this instance. This section requires that there has been a change in the neighborhood or community or mistake in the planning or zoning of the land, such that it would be inconsistent with applicable goals and policies of the comprehensive plan and or other applicable duly adopted goals and policies of the planning commission and or town council to develop the property as presently zoned or in accordance with existing zoning regulations. Further guidance from the applicant would be appreciated on this matter. Town Code 16-2-310 governs the contents of notices. Specifically, the proposal will describe the nature, scope, and purpose of the proposed action. This standard was not met in either the ordinance or the overview. In lieu of specifics, the applicant outlined a broad overview stating that the proposed change will be better, will quote, better define the activities associated with the marina, unquote, and quote, overcome the complexities of the marina overlapping two zoning districts, unquote, does not satisfactorily, quote, describe the nature, scope, and purpose of the proposed action, unquote. We did not find the underlying purpose of changing the zoning of the current parks and open space and the impact on this area in the future. Due to the issues presented in this letter, we respectfully request the proposed be denied. Sincerely, Ruth and Jim Sherry. Okay. From Anchorage Condo Associations, Jeff O'Neill, president. Anchorage is made up of 30 property owners located on 10th Street. The proposed marina overlay zone abuts our property on two sides. The public notice of the application states that its purpose is to better define the activities associated with the marina and to, quote, overcome the complexities of the marina overlapping two zoning districts, unquote. This notice is deceptive and misleading. First, under the current parks and open space zoning, the marina public parks and recreational areas are uses by right. Conditional uses include hotels, restaurants, and retail stores, but only if they are integrated into a planned marina development. Under the proposed MOZ, zoning, restaurants, bars, snacks, bars, parking structures, rentals, and retail facilities would all be uses by right and need not be integrated into a planned marina development. This would gut the POS zone by dramatically increasing the commercial uses, which could be made of areas which are now set aside for parks and open space. Second, the proposed MOZ does not simply encompass the marina area. Instead, it includes the entire shoreline all the way from Dillon Dam on the west to the end of Dillon Bay on the east, a distance of about 2 miles. Why are you proposing to permit the construction of restaurants, bars, retail shops, parking garages, and concession facilities along this entire 2 miles of shoreline land, which is now protected as open space? The town code states that the zoning map can only be changed upon a finding that there has been a change in the neighborhood or community or a mistake in the planning or zoning of the land such that it be inconsistent with town goals and policies to develop the property as presently zoned. The public notice of this proposal does not say what changes have occurred or what mistakes have been made. A zoning change cannot legally be made absent. A zoning change cannot legally be made absent these findings. Finally, the town code requires public notice of zoning change, which could describe the nature, scope, and purpose of the proposed action, unquote. The notice for the zoning change does not disclose that the proposed MOZ zoning would allow restaurants, bars, snack bars, parking structures, rental, and retail facilities, and concessions as uses by right in the shoreline, which is now set aside for parks and open space. Without this disclosure, the notice does not describe the nature or scope of the proposed change. It is therefore deceptive and ineffective. The council cannot adopt a zoning change until proper notice is given. We therefore request that this zoning change be tabled until proper notice is given, required findings are made, and the council carefully considers the ramification of what is actually being proposed. Anchorage Condo Association, Jeff O'Neill. Linda Oliver, Dillon resident. I'd like to be on record that I am supporting the documents I received from Ruth and Jim Sherry and the Anchorage condominium associations that was just read. I too respectfully ask that you deny the proposal for ordinance 11/2023. Oh, God. This is from Susan Harrington, Dillon owner. These comments are regarding the Marina Overlay Zoning District. Thank you for mailing to the owners of properties within 300 feet. You're the stewards of our most beautiful mountain town. As changes of elements are imperative and you're creating this MOZ to facilitate further development. Your decisions today will mold and shape our downtown for decades to come. My big concern to traffic flow, parking, walkability, although not specific in the mailing, I suspect you're looking at the waterfront area for a parking solution, such as a parking garage. Please be open to every possible solution before you lock in the waterfront as a location for additional parking. I feel strongly that parking structure requiring cars to get close to marina. I feel strongly that parking structure requiring cars to get close to the marina, then the intersection of West Lodgepole and Lake Dillon Drive is a huge mistake. Problem for several reasons. Every car visiting Dillon would drive Marina Drive. A huge walkability opportunity would be missed. If parking can be created north of Labonte Street, then visitors will walk to the waterfront or around our little town. This gives visitors the opportunity to walk by shopping and dining, spending some additional money in our town. Parcel near the FERC food market would be much better location for parking than the waterfront. Lastly, the waterfront may not be the winter draw for our town. Some kind of social plaza, like Keystone River Run, could be the center of our winter activity. So parking in that area makes more sense. There's no easy, obvious answer. Please don't default to the waterfront because it's the easy answer. Spend a little more time investigating and other options. There's another solution. You just need to find or create just some thoughts. Does a food bank need to be located in prime real estate in downtown Dillon? Does a post office need to be in downtown Dillon? How about uptown 240 parcel? I realize these are challenges in utilizing these other spaces, but that's the hard work you're being asked to do. If the town has the wherewithal to buy 2 beautiful 1-bedroom condos for town staff, it stands to reason the town can buy another parcel for parking lot that is not on the waterfront. Thank you for your serious consideration of these issues, Susan Harrington. Let's see. Ooh, there's more. This is from Joshua and Natalie Meyer, Dillon resident. We are owners of Anchorage East condominium. Our property was acquired at premium. In reliance on the fact that it is unobstructed views of the lake and mountains beyond and abuts land zone for parks and open space. These abutting lands are not currently used for marina purposes and are unsuitable for marina uses. Ordinance 11/2/23 is being proposed due to the complexities arising from its inclusion in 2 zoning districts and the fact that a portion of the marina is located on property leased from Denver Water. Its stated purpose is to, quote, better define the activities associated with the marina by the creation of an overlay district, unquote. In fact, whether intentionally or unintentionally, this zoning proposal will significantly expand the types of commercial activities that could be conducted on land set aside for park and open space purposes. There are multiple problems with the rezoning proposal currently pending. The MOZ proposal is an expansive rezoning rather than a protective overlay. Typically, this type of overlay is reserved for further protecting public and open spaces, not expanding its potential use. The proposed MOZ is far more extensive than necessary to address marina issues. Neither a change in the neighborhood nor mistaken zoning justify the proposed zoning change. The public notice and supporting materials are misleading. The proposed creation of the MOZ would do far more than is necessary to accomplish the stated purposes. The public notice does not describe what is being proposed and is legally defective. Therefore, we respectfully request the proposal be withdrawn and redrafted to avoid these defects. Josh and Natalie Meyer. This is from Mark Leverson, owner of a Dillon condo in Lake Cliff. My wife and I have owned a condo at Lake Cliff since 2014. They overlook and are adjacent to Dillon Marina Amphitheater. We received the notice of the public hearing January 29, 2024, sent to property owners located within 300 feet of the proposed MOZ. I urge the town council to oppose the proposed MOZ as currently written. The MOZ as written appears to resemble a broad and sweeping zoning change. It is very hard to believe that the marina needs this MOZ to, quote, better define the activities associated with the marina, unquote. The parks and open space and urban reserve lands shown on the MOZ map serve the residents and visitors exceptionally well. The lakeshore areas host many hikers, bikers, fisher folk. Sightseers. It would be detrimental to the lakeshore aesthetic to construct high-rise resorts or high-density retail businesses in this area, whether associated with the marina or not. If the town wants to encourage development in restaurant, bars, retail, strongly suggest this being accomplished within the town center or core area. CA. The current mix of businesses located on either side of Lake Dillon Drive between Buffalo and Labatt, but one restaurant, no retail stores, and no overnight accommodations for visitors or locals. There's nothing to draw visitors or locals to Main Street. It has only become worse since the economic jockeying of a recent development plan, which led to the closure of a cafe. It is discouraging that the town of Dillon cannot provide a transparent, stable development plan that support continued operation of the most popular restaurant in the town core area, which is located within a block of the amphitheater. Frisco is an example of successful lakeside town with a vibrant Main Street and Restaurant 5. There's a marina on the lake nearby, no lodge resorts. Dillon could do the same, and it doesn't require a major developer. I suggest you narrow Lake Dillon Drive, move post office, reduce the huge footprint, and replace the large private parking lots with a row of storefronts, housing, restaurants, retail, and living spaces. Please protect the current lakeshore open spaces and marina aesthetic. I am all for developing vibrant town core with restaurants, retail, and additional housing. Please don't destroy the best part of Dillon and the reason we have happy locals and visitors. Mark Leverson. One last one. This is from Iman Sadie and Sean Ergen, Dillon residents. Okay. The court argument made in favor of a marina overlay zone MOZ. One, the Dillon Marina is currently located in 2 zone districts, POS and UR, Urban Reserve. Only in the POS zone district is marina use identified as a permitted use. 2, due to the complexities arising from its inclusion in 2 zoning districts and the fact that a portion of the marina is located in property leased from Denver Water, town staff has determined the most appropriate course of action is to better define the activities associated with the marina by the creation of an overlay district. After reviewing the proposed MOZ, it is our position that the district is overreaching and that the discussion should be limited to the current marina area outlined in black and shaded in light blue below. We do not support the MOZ as it is proposed. Iman Sadie and Sean Ugrin. Okay.
Nice speed reading.
Yeah. Did you understand me? Okay.
Most of it.
Really, I mean, I can't say it. Sorry.
Before we turn to the council for questions, I want to state the documents included within this record for the public hearing include the staff summary, ordinance, proposed amendments, and the public comment sign-up sheet. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? Questions from council?
I don't have any questions. I think Ned's made a valid presentation. Comments have been made by the public that are very valid. I don't have any questions.
Questions? Anybody need clarification? Anything? Okay. I'll now close the public hearing and the council will deliberate. During deliberations, council members may ask questions of town staff, but no further public comment or other testimony or evidence will be received. So it's 7:57 and the public hearing's closed. So who would like to begin?
I'll go.
Please.
I just have to agree with Ned and town staff that this is a cleanup of 2 conflicting zoning districts. And after listening to Nick and some of the other public comments, including the written ones, it is not a zoning change, it's simply an overlay district. Just clarifies zoning provisions and stuff. Ned did make a couple of small clarifications concerning uses allowed by eliminating marijuana shops and other service businesses and stuff. But certainly the basic zoning underlying district didn't change a whit. As the town moves forward with marina improvements over the years, whether it's a restaurant or a parking lot, restriping, this gives clarity to the town and to Denver Water. Doing so, if there's any application for a restaurant or another facility, it gives clarity to any applicants. Any application for any restaurant or service has to go through PUD and all kinds of jurisdictional hoops, meaning planning and zoning, meaning staff approval, meaning Denver Water approval, and if it's big enough, eventually town council approval. So I firmly believe that this is a good thing to do to give staff and the public clarity on any future improvements that might happen down at the marina. And the whole district, not just the marina.
I have a question.
We're done with the public hearing, sir. Sorry,
Is that it? Is that it, Brad?
that's it.
Who'd like to go
I
next?
have a
Dana?
question for Ned. Ned, can you kind of clarify what guidelines and intentions you use to draw those boundaries the way they're
Yeah, it was just based on the uses that I have
On the current
observed
use.
over time. If I were to turn off that blue overlay district area, you would see one of the old docks moored down there in that cove. And that was part of why I said, well, that was truly loved by the public.
Yeah.
And I see the sailing, junior sailing, they'll sail across to the peninsula. So I was just,
the intention was just to include all the current marina activities inside of this.
that was the intent, you know, and I can understand where people are thinking, well, we're going to try to jam, development on these steep slopes of the marina, but that was,
Are you aware of any plans for development? in it?
no,
Ned, I have a question
yes.
while you're up there. I can see the concern because there's 6 particular usage within the 3 zones, the 2 zones plus the new overlay that might scare the residents where entertainment, which wouldn't scare me. Offices was changed from not allowed to allowed. Public use went from conditional to allowed, which makes sense. Restaurants were changed from conditional and not allowed to allowed, and retail stores. Now that was aimed mostly at the marina area. Even,
Specifically, yes.
yeah,
that is
even though
correct.
because of the overlay, it might look like somebody might want to develop something
and-
right in front of their place.
And I very much understand that.
Yeah,
concern.
and I guess you could assure them that there's really no plans and not very good topography to try to do anything like that in front of. And so why were those, that was mainly allowed simply for the marina footprint.
That's correct. It was aligning with the
Okay.
current uses
So
that are taking
that's the only
place
reason
in the
it
water.
says allowed now is
Yep.
because
It's the,
it needed to be in the marina overlay and they really have nothing to worry about.
Well, and it's in our marina master plan.
Right,
To
exactly.
ultimately
Right.
put a building in that is offices,
Mhm.
retail stores for the marina.
Right.
A restaurant and
And I can see though why some of the residents might feel like, well, you could put it right in front of our place. Which technically it would be allowed, but it would never happen.
Well, and the subject area in that, I call it an overflow parking lot. I mean, that's just kind of how we've termed it. That's right of way. So we, unless we vacate the right of way, which I don't think we would because it provides an emergency access through to Lake Cliff. I mean, it still serves that public benefit. So the right of way is necessary. So I see no structure going there.
No.
I see it as parking used by the marina for their purposes, but also overflow for concerts and other times that it is used. That said, because it's right of way, I could amend the map boundary if you all direct me to do so.
I thought about that as this conversation was unfolding, and I don't think it actually makes sense to carve it out. It may make you feel better, but maybe that right of way comment makes you feel more comfortable that we can't really abandon the right of way because it's the emergency access. But I don't think we can really carve it out either if we're trying to identify uses of the marina. And the only people that use that parking lot are the marina. Nobody else parks there. So to me, it makes sense that it's part of this marina zone overlay. Because that's the only time it gets used is by the marina to put,
And their
Boat
covenant
trailers.
supersedes anything.
so it seems like there's plenty of protection on there, and I get that it's uncomfortable sometimes to go into that, but it seems protected to me that it's the right of way and it's used by the marina, so it would make sense in this conversation for the marina overlay. Who would like to go next? John, Renee, Kyle, Dana?
Don't have anything to say about it. Yeah.
I'll Yeah. just
add, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I understand everybody's concern. But I think sometimes it's a lot of miscommunication, or maybe you guys didn't understand the whole picture. But I think you're protected by Nick. I'm very confident in what Nick has said about the agreement that you guys have. And again, we have no intention of building right in front of Lake Cliff or anything. We want to just redevelop the town that is pleasing to everybody. So this is just, in my opinion, just a cleanup recommended by staff, just so that we're clear on the overlay marina district. But I do appreciate everybody coming forward and, because you do have valid points and concerns. And so I do really appreciate that. I kind of agree with you guys.
I was just gonna say too, there is no secret agenda. Nick brought this to us to clean it up, but we don't have any concealed plans. to Make changes in front of your places, really. It's only to clean up the zoning. Or what do they call it, urban reserve.
And allow the current uses.
Yeah.
Especially as we dive into the Marina Master Plan, which we approved years ago with everyone.
Yeah.
In the room. I think that, same thing, but like, if you really think about where those lines are and you think about where a building would be, like, it's gonna be underwater.
Yeah.
If you put a building basically anywhere on there except at the marina. And this west side, that stuff is very steep over there, to get from the highway to the lake. That's not just a stroll. That is like, even off the rec path, you have to go way down to get down to the lake. So I can't ever see that being developed, with the exception of maybe further consideration for some sort of, in that flat area in the bottom corner, maybe some sort of parking and hand lodge. And that is such a baby idea. We haven't even looked at it beyond saying those words and drawing a blue line on the map. What's that? Oh, because why? I didn't say it's never going to be developed. I said it's a baby idea, and we're including it because, as Ned said, the sailing activities from the school go into this sort of safe cove. So that's why the water is included. And then because of that baby idea of maybe we'll pursue it, but maybe we won't. At least it's allowed right now. And that idea, I think, came from the roundabout discussion. So I don't know how many of you have been sitting around the whole time, but if there's a roundabout right at that the first entrance to Corinthian Hill there, kind of makes sense to ease some of the parking at the Eagle statue and at the Marina Park, and sort of spread out water activities. So not everyone's funneled down into that one spot. Anyway, I'm in favor of this. It does seem like a pretty easy cleanup for staff to just make it easier on them. And
Carolyn, let me add to your previous comment.
Yeah.
We've also discussed parallel rec paths, so you don't have the bicycles and pedestrians on the same one. So that would be another, development inside that zone.
then we're not going to be able to develop the marina in so our marina master plan indicates that we want to do these things. And right now, the way it sits, we can't do the things we want to do in our marina master plan, which is the things that exist at the marina right now. Yeah, we are done with public comments. Sorry for engaging. Council, any further deliberation on this? I would entertain a motion.
This is number 5.
Item 5.
I'll make a motion that we consider approval ordinance number 11-23, series of 2023 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion, council? Roll call.
Councilmember Woods,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Memora,
Yes.
Scalise,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Maskoware.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for your input. Item 6 is consideration of resolution number 824, series of 2024, a resolution by the Town Council of the Town of Dillon, Colorado, making supplemental appropriations to various funds for the Town of Dillon, Colorado for the 2023 budget year. The public hearing's open at 8:10. Mary Kay?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. This is a consideration of a resolution for making supplemental appropriations to various funds for the town for the 2023 budget year. And just to give you some background, the council approved the 2023 budget on December 6th, 2022. And the council has authority to amend the budget throughout the year. And the notice of the consideration of these appropriations was published Friday, February 9th, 2024. And this resolution allows the town to amend the 2023 budget for the following. The Marina Fund, these expenditures will come from an unappropriated fund balance. And it includes salaries of $138,000 and fuel costs of $20,000. And then we also have Housing 5A Fund. These expenditures will come from unappropriated fund balance for down payment assistance for $150,000. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions? Since the public hearing, I open it up to the public. Is anyone here to make a comment about the supplemental appropriations tonight? Nobody signed up, but you still have a chance. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 8:11. Open up to council deliberation.
I have no deliberations.
Nothing to deliberate.
Right.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 824, series of 2024.
Hey, I'll make a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
There you go.
Is there a second?
I
I'll
knew that.
second.
Any further discussion? Thanks for your work on this, Mary Kay. Roll call.
Councilmember Hendricks,
Yes.
Scalise.
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Memora,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Maskoware.
Yes. Up next, item 7, consideration of resolution number 924, series of 2024, resolution adopting a master plan for Highway 6 roundabouts. Dan?
Adrian, could you pull up just the map?
Yeah, hold on. There, here.
That's it. So we discussed this at the last meeting. So our assignment was to, look at ways to get better pedestrian access across the Corinthian Hill intersection. So we were thinking about that. And this kind of evolved into a connectivity plan because some of the areas west and north of Highway 6, like Dillon Valley and the Dillon Ridge Marketplace, are connected to the town right now because they have signalized intersections with crosswalks. But the rest of the town, with starting at the east end, and then numbered the roundabouts number 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Down at the cemetery, there's no way really to get across the highway. So roundabout would help slow the traffic down to 35 miles an hour and put pedestrian crossings there on each end of the roundabout. Roundabout number 4 would serve the Corinthian Hill subdivision. Roundabout number 3 would serve Oro Grande. And roundabout number 2 would potentially serve the Tenderfoot Trailhead and also the proposed Forest Service housing project that's being considered. And then roundabout 1, of course, is the roundabout we've been talking about and we have a preliminary design for at Lake Dillon Drive and Highway 6. So again, kind of the goals were to connect the Dillon Cemetery, the Nature Preserve, this golf course, Corinthian Hill, Tenderfoot Addition, which is a Oro Grande area, Tenderfoot Mountain Trailhead, Forest Canyon area, and then Dillon Valley with the town center and get pedestrians across there easier. The roundabouts, of course, have the advantage of making left turns easier for everybody and it avoids those T-bone collisions. As we learned with roundabouts, you might have more small accidents, but the major accidents where there's fatalities and bodily harm tend to go away. So anyway, the other two items in this is that we have a rec path along the lake. So if we can get people across the highway in those roundabouts 3, 4, and 5, then they can use the rec path. But we also added a new rec path between roundabouts 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 to help, just better connectivity and, people, bikes and stuff, they can get around a lot better. The other thing would be that it's written it here that our goal would be to have medians in between all the roundabouts, a center median, just for safety to keep people from crossing the street and help them find the road in the winter, which can be difficult. So we wrote a simple resolution to adopt this as a master plan. So it means, the master plan means is the concept that we're interested in exploring. And it'll help us get grants to hopefully fund some preliminary design at the different roundabout locations. And so it's a resolution adopting the Highway 6 roundabout master plan. And the master plan is dated February 20th, 2024. And it's attached to the resolution. So town staff recommends approval of resolution 09-24.
Thank you, Dan.
Uh-huh.
Any questions for Dan?
I think it just goes a long way, just in planning exercises only to alleviate some of the concerns we've had with US 6 for decades. It's a great start.
So, the question, so I missed this on the work session, you guys discussed that last time, but I like roundabouts and so adopting this ordinance with this
Resolution.
I'm sorry,
It's just a resolution.
resolution with this, resolution with this, like you said, help us get more grants and maybe speed up the process in order to implement these roundabouts, or is it still like, because Janine, she's a Corinthian Hill, she came and gave public comment, she left, but she is right. I mean, it is totally a safety issue here with Highway 6. In fact, coming to council, there's this guy, I'm not kidding you, he's probably going 60 to 65, and he passed me and I was right at the light and I was like, holy I mean, he was just like, so yes, it's something that needs, I think, to have high priority because we need to do something about Highway 6. And so I'm really for this, and if this could speed it up and help us get grants.
That's what we were thinking, sort of
Which I missed last.
Yeah.
Because I was in another meeting.
solidify our resolve to do this.
Well, and I think roundabouts are great, so,
Yeah, it can also help take us down a path to find other funding sources. If the Corinthian Hills wants to sooner than later, they could consider a property assessment in order to provide maybe half the funding for the roundabout.
property assessment.
Whoops.
10 million. If you guys assess yourselves $5 million, see how that goes.
We've done that before, like on the Anemone Trail when that got reconstructed.
I don't think that.
Great idea, Randy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if some of the money we pay could go to.
But it's a legitimate way to speed it up.
Right, and I'm not opposed to it. I don't want higher taxes, but hey.
So yes, it is just adopting this and saying we are in favor of this and we want to pursue it,
Okay.
Guidance. Can I make a statement?
please.
So the Corinthian Hills, both live in Corinthian Hill, and they've been calling me and
Yeah.
they've become politically active. And I said, we have this much money. Why don't you share your political activism with Summit County, who has this much money, and the state,
CDOT and
which says this
CDOT.
much money. So we're going to try to get them to spread their passion.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, because
Told us.
well, I don't think they understand that we don't have control over Highway 6 as much. People think that they can come to our town meetings and give a public comment and think we can just make the decision. Yeah, we're gonna do it right now. So they don't, because I never understood before I was on council. I had no idea. So it's, anyway.
And I did forward this to CDOT today and let them know you guys were possibly going to adopt this.
Any differing views that the table should be listening to here?
Sure.
Please.
The only solution I see for a way for Corinthian Hills to get across the highway would be a passage, would be a bridge, would be a pedestrian bridge. Putting in a roundabout to slow down traffic, I do not see as the solution. And there's no reason to have a roundabout down at the cemetery. And preserve parking, that doesn't, there's no need for it. There hasn't been, and there won't be for 20 years. Unless something else happens with property around there to create density. So I do not see a need for either of those roundabouts right now. If any traffic needed to turn left out of Cranton Hills, they could go to the roundabout by the Eagle statue and use that as a U-turn to go back to Keystone
Okay,
or
you don't.
Summit Cove.
You should come into my neighborhood and
Well,
go in and
Yeah,
out.
okay, so, but your point is correct, Kyle, and I think that sort of the way they're numbered is sort of their order of importance for us, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you go out of town.
Yep.
And you're right, 3 will serve 4's population until 20 years from now. 18 years from now, when we get to number 4, and then 20 years from now. I actually think the one at the nature preserve and cemetery could be ranked higher because of, I think there is heavy use in both of those areas. And it's just as impossible to get out of there as it is.
And it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that too. I think because people pick up speed and they go.
You just can't make a left onto a major highway, and
Yeah,
that
it's
is
not
the
just-
problem with each and every one of these intersections.
Right, it's not just about population density, it's about the ability to get out on the
Yep.
freeway
Yeah.
and turn left.
And
Yeah.
again, this is just a plan. It's not a prioritization. That comes later,
Yeah, this is,
which means good elimination. That's later.
But I mean, nothing, I mean, I've driven a lot in Beaver Creek and Edwards and all those areas, and they have multiple ones, just like this plan right here, and people are slow, I mean, you have to pay attention, so it
Yep.
definitely slows down traffic. So if we can't get CDOT to lower the speed limit on Highway 6, then all those roundabouts are, yeah, I mean, the first and second one would slow the traffic down, probably for Corinthian Hill. But I don't know, I mean, they could do that roundabout and then zoom down like they do to Keystone. So
does anyone have anything to share that we haven't heard yet? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 09-24, series of 2024 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Mora,
yes,
Scalise,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Hendricks,
No.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Maskey.
Yes. Up next, we have consideration of resolution number 1124. Thank you, Dan. Consideration of resolution number 1124, series of 2024, resolution adopting revised employee housing policies and lease agreements concerning the town-owned units located at 0558 County Road 51 and 701 and then Anemone Trail.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Included in your packet is the updated revisions to the lease and also policies for these housing units. I do want to point out that Unit 201A and Unit 201B are very similar. However, Unit B has a $500 security deposit because it is fully furnished. After discussing with staff, the monthly rent for those units would be $1,600 for single occupancy, $2,000 for double occupancy. The policy also states various different occupancy requirements. And what we intend to do with the Anemone units is allow up to a 3-year lease to give more long-term lease because we are capped at 1 year of the County Road 51 unit. So with that, we also did some cleanup work on the policies as what's allowable with, as I mentioned, occupancy, but smoking, pets, and then we have an eviction criteria list in the event that we ever have to use it. Hopefully we don't, but that's addendum A. Staff is recommending approval of the resolution.
Questions for Nathan?
The 3-year lease again, I didn't quite hear what you said.
Yes, we wanted to create the masthead anemone units, more of the long-term lease to give some people a little bit more time to get established and on their feet to then hopefully go into that next year.
Is there an option for a shorter lease?
Right now it's just a 2-year lease with a extension of 1 year. However, it is weighted heavily in favor of the employee. So if the employee were to find something else, they could just give 30-day notice, then break the lease.
Nathan, what if they can't find something else they can afford after 3 years? They
Well,
get kicked out?
Well, potentially, that's dependent on what if somebody else were to apply.
They go back into lottery, right?
Right.
It can be a lottery as opposed to merit, like the employee you really want to keep.
Well, it's gonna be lottery based. We've had, one employee already put their name in the furnished unit at, the Masthead Building. We do anticipate some others, but I think there's some uncertainty out there because they wanted to know what those rates were gonna be. So we'll see.
This is actually, it's actually pretty reasonable.
It's totally
I
reasonable.
mean, it's- yeah, it's pretty low.
I think people are excited. It's just, that unknown of, do you really want to live in a place that's provided by your employer?
Yes, could bug the place with cameras,
Yeah.
recording devices.
For that
I
kind
don't
of
know,
money,
I don't know
they'll
that we
say
would do
yes.
that, but.
Any other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1124, series of 2024.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any further
No,
discussion?
who seconded it?
Everyone.
Brett? Okay.
Brad
Uh,
was first.
Can I just make a request for a quick amendment? I didn't realize that the unit at Anemone, the second one was furnished. And the security deposit only secures damages to the premises. So I want to extend that to the furniture as well for the town's protection.
Should we retake the motion, amending it to that?
Well, since the motion's already on the table, we can take a motion to amend. And then if that is adopted, then it becomes part of the main motion.
So can I go ahead and say, hey, I entertain a motion?
You can do that too.
Okay, I entertain a motion to amend, the adopted amendment,
Is there a motion to amend the motion on the table to add that the second unit is furnished and the security deposit also covers that?
So moved. Second.
darn, I was gonna do that.
Okay, first roll call, please,
Um,
for the amendment.
yes, Councilmember Hendricks,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Scalise.
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Memora,
Yes,
Master Bear.
Yes. Second roll call, any further discussion about the original motion? Second roll call for the original motion to approve the now amended motion.
Do I have a first and second or could I just?
Yeah.
It's already made.
Yeah.
We,
So we
okay.
vote no.
Councilmember Hendricks,
Oh, yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Scalise.
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Memora. Master Bear.
Yes. We amended it.
I don't
We made the motion. We amended it.
Approving
We
the
called the
amended
roll call on
motion.
that to amend it, and then we came back out to the original one to approve it anyway, after we amended it on the inside. Future council agendas, I think we've added 2 or 3 things already tonight, but does anybody have anything else?
Just to recap, I have 3 things, closing Buffalo at Uptown 240. So Three Rivers in Buffalo would be like, Gold Run Circle, also micro transit in Dillon, and then, going back to those, incentives and parking requirements in the core area zone district.
Great. Anything else anybody wants to add?
I would like to add something for the far future, when we do the retreat that's on a future agenda. Instead of, rather than doing just training, because we're gonna have one new person. I would like to have more interaction between council members about 5-year plans, future ideas. Because I have some things I'd like to propose, and I think we're gonna have more time there to talk about what could be done to improve Dillon. Right? Does it have to be an open meeting if we're talking about that?
It's always open, yep.
Yeah, we'd have to publicize it. But yes, we can add that.
I would like to put in a plug that I think. Yeah, and I would like to put in a plug for the training. I think the more training you get as an elected official, the more effectively you can serve your community
We're elected.
or appointed. You're elected,
Not really.
totally elected.
No.
Town manager's update.
Almost ran now.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. A couple, quick items I wanted to cover that are in the written report. Sales tax for, budget year 2023 was down approximately 189,000 or 1.88%. Couple town projects I wanted to put on your radar. We met internally to go over the RFP for the old Crow's Nest site. We glammed it, have some pictures, et cetera, and within the first week of publication, we had over 40 national companies download the documents. That's pretty astounding. High turnout so far, so hopefully we'll get some good proposals there. We were able to close on 293 Ensign Drive last week via Dura, or the Dillon Urban Renewal Authority. Dan's going to be working on some plans here to potentially replace that water line that runs in between this property and the adjacent property here this spring or summer. Prior to us even considering reselling the property. So we could use that as a staging area. And then more importantly, I wanted to keep you all afloat that we have been in very preliminary discussions with the town of Keystone on providing law enforcement services within the new town boundaries. So the ongoing discussion, a couple follow-up items, and we anticipate another discussion here at the beginning of March. So maybe in March, April, we'll see. They're somewhat in a predicament. The county gave them a 90-day notice, so the county's going to cease services. I believe that's May 9th. So they're looking for something for the end of the year. And then, of course, longer term, starting in January 2025. Other than that, that's all I have.
How much would we have to increase our staff by?
That is one of the questions that we're analyzing right now, and we want to make sure we have all the data to make an educated recommendation to you all.
And they would be paying for the extra officer.
Maybe. We'll see.
Do they have a long-term plan to have their own police force eventually?
I think their long-term plan is to partner with us. They've mentioned the potential of what Fraser and Winter Park has done. However, that could be very challenging, looking at where we're at with a very well-established department with all the tools, resources, and personnel in place. We're really trying to hammer down into the call load and what specifically they want there in their community to determine what those numbers actually look like in terms of full-time equivalent employees. So it's very preliminary discussions, but we're trying to figure out, based on data, if it's even worth pursuing.
When the sheriff says they're gonna stop service, does that just mean they're not gonna patrol in that area, but they still have to respond if they're like in Summit Cove by some off chance?
One would think that they would respond. However, our team is out there a lot. I'd say predominantly all the time. So when they talk about the sheriff's department ceasing operations, I'm not sure that they were even there to begin with.
No, that's what I'm saying. Should they happen to be in Summit Cove, which sort of insinuating that they don't come over here anyway, so what difference is it gonna make? If they don't have law enforcement, the sheriff is still responsible for him. So why'd they tell him 90 days? Just to be jerks?
Is there minutes?
Do they know that?
Well, they're probably cutting off the revenues too, right? Because they're not gonna be paying into the Summit County.
Well,
taxes.
correct. There is a revenue issue, but there's a lot of politics going on there too,
Yeah.
just because of them incorporating that. I think, not to speak for Madam Mayor, but her and I have been included in those conversations, and there's clearly a lot of political will to try to axe them as soon as they can.
Man, can you imagine if the Dillon police officers are responding out there all the time
They already are.
and there's 4 roundabouts in the way? You know how much slower it's
They
gonna
just
take
go
for them
over
to
the.
get there?
Just go right over it.
Man,
Nathan, do you have any public update on Uptown 240?
Uptown 240 is supposed to close next week. We're hoping that it'll close. I'll just leave it at that.
Really?
Well, I
a
don't want to
story
hold my
about Uptown
breath because we've
240.
been told this probably 20, 30 times before.
I hope it
And-
doesn't, and then we can just move forward with some sort of like,
Well, if it doesn't close, I
Would
think,
take up-
we will come back and try, the eminent domain process.
Damn
Say,
it.
Just start taking.
Condemn
at
it,
that
yeah.
point.
I know, at that point, I'd be more interested in starting to really engage.
Right. That's re-
Mayor's update, it's been slow right now, so I don't really have much. Councilmember comments? Adjournment. Those in favor say aye. This meeting's adjourned at 8:30. Thanks, everyone.